Once you're in and it gets you, it's got you.
I love the fire service, and I always will.
I'm thankful that I had this job because it's the best job in the world.
Basically, I just found my calling. I loved helping people, and I loved being the person that could be calm when everybody else is freaking out.
It's become really a part of just who I am.
I worked from February in 1957 to March 2008, 51 years.
This is the greatest job I ever had in my life. Firefighting. The greatest schedule, the greatest camaraderie, the greatest family.
I have a background of playing a lot of sports, and being a firefighter, it gave me another opportunity to be a part of the team.
I really think deep down there's some people something missing a little bit, and they think, they get that fulfillment from being a firefighter, I think. And everybody has their own reasons for becoming one.
I worked at Wrightsville Beach Parks while I was in college, and a friend of mine that I worked with was a volunteer firefighter at the beach. And since I lived at the beach, and he said, "Hey, why don't you come join the fire department?" And so I did, and joined the volunteers down there. And after being there for a year or two, I was like, man, this is something I could really do, and I can see myself doing as a career. Wilmington called and offered me a job, and the rest is history, I guess.
I had been in the military for 5 years, and it was one of the things of serving my country. So I wanted to serve my community, and it was either the police department or the fire department. And I think what really got me, what I kept thinking about, was the aerial truck with Goofy on the back. And I always wanted to ride that one. I made a decision, and it was the fire department.
I actually had the unique opportunity to where I started off again as an early age in the fire service, but then I left and I went to go work in what is terminology as corporate America. And it just continued to be like, what am I doing with my life? Why am I doing this? Go and do what you love. Go and do what you know that you're destined to do. Started the academy in August of 2004. Never looked back.
It's a cliche answer, pretty much, of just wanting to be a firefighter since I was a kid. It started at a young age when I was in elementary school, seeing the firefighters come to the station, come to the schools, me getting to go see them, everything like that. That's what kind of just really drew me to wanting to be a firefighter.
For me, it is a family business. Like I said, my dad started the volunteer fire department in our local community in 1976, and I chased him into the fire service. My brother shortly came into that same volunteer fire department.
Well, father like son, I was in my father started a volunteer department, went apart. And so I followed his steps.
Grew up pretty much in and out of firehouses. Had 4 uncles, a great uncle, 2 cousins, father and grandfather, all in the Wilmington Fire Department.
I have nobody in my family who was a firefighter. And the reason I became a volunteer firefighter, because my best friend got hurt very bad in a fire.
When you pick up that phone and dial 911, there's 2 things they want to happen. You want somebody to answer, and you want somebody to come to your rescue.
Kitchen Zone 1C Charlie, Engine 1, Engine 5, Squad 1, Tower 1, respond, 1219 Kidder Street.
Almost from the outset of the settlement of Wilmington, the issue of what to do about fire has been one that the community grappled with. There was an early law in the 1770s that said that every household had to have fire buckets. Firefighting in our colonial period was a communal act. Everybody was responsible for fire services to begin with. But that doesn't work for long when you're a growing urban area with a commercial district the way that Wilmington and New Hanover County were. So well before 1897 and the professionalization of the Wilmington Fire Department, there were fire companies working here as volunteers, helping to suppress fires in our community.
The first official incorporation of a fire department was the Wilmington Hook and Ladder Company in 1846. And most of these were nothing more than bucket brigades. They didn't have fire, so they had fire engines, which were the hand pump fire engines, not the steam fire engines that came a little bit later. But a lot of these folks that's what they were bucket brigades.
After emancipation in the 1860s, we've got 30 years of well-established Black and white volunteer fire companies in our city. So you want to tap into that expertise. And so our fire department in the 19th century, when it was first founded, ironically, was much more reflective of the demography of the community than today's fire department. In the 1890s, the fusion movement in North Carolina means that in 1897, we had a biracial fusion government in the city of Wilmington. And the mayor at the time reached out to Atlanta and asked the Atlanta fire chief of their professional department to come to Wilmington and look at the fire services here and make some recommendations. And in that report, they recommended that we professionalize the fire department. He said, I would rather have a department of 32 paid firemen than of 132 volunteer firemen. For with one it is glory, and with the other it is business. November 1897, the fire department is founded. November 1898, all the African-American firefighters in the city of Wilmington are fired and replaced by white men. So traditionally, African-American firehouses became staffed by all white men. And that was the state of affairs up until the 60s.
I think it was, political pressure based on everything else that was going on. We had a new government essentially, and so their priorities were to get rid of all the African American people who were serving in any capacity with the city, from the town council, the city council, to the fire department. So we have to recognize our past and learn from it, just like we do any other thing. If we have a bad fire, or if we have someone gets hurt or something, we use that situation to learn from. And I think that's another great example of how we can be better by understanding some of the mistakes that we've made in the past.
What we can see is that in the 60s, that reopening of the doors, in part because of the civil rights movement, and in part because there were people willing to make changes. You see the first Black man being hired again. In the 80s, we see the first women being hired.
I've got a very good friend, and he's a history buff. And he said, Russell was the first Black fireman in Wilmington. And he's correct. Nah, he was the first Black fireman to have to reconstruction. I said, okay, I'll buy that. Well, you were part of history, and I was real proud of myself. Really was. Yeah.
I was the first African American female officer in North Carolina. It's an honor. It felt good, and it still feels good. And it's one of the things that if I look at what I accomplished, maybe someone else could look at it that's like me and accomplish the same thing.
Here we are 124, 125 years later, and we're still trying to recover from that. We had a department back then that was very reflective of the African American population in the city at the time. And now we are barely at 10%. We have been working since the late 60s to try to recruit African American youth. It's just, we're still not doing a very good job. I think we've got a long way to go to, make sure that those young African American youth understand that the fire department is a place where they can have a career, where they can come to work. And it's important for us to be more aggressive in our recruitment campaigns and our communications out there so that those young men and women not only come to work for us, but in the future, they're examples to other young men and women that see them, people that look like them, driving the fire truck or working on the fire ground or being at an EMS call or just wearing our uniform.
If your department isn't representative of the community as a whole, then people can feel like it's not for them. So on the most basic level, it improves our ability to be of service to the community if we understand the legacies of our histories.
Tradition is everything we're founded upon. As far as occupations go, it's not the oldest occupation in the world, but it's one of them.
Tradition plays a huge role in the fire service, just the way of how we operate.
Tradition plays a big role in the fire service, and it sets to help us remember where we came from, where we're going, and also help us remember to respect those that came before us. That's why I think we hold on to traditions.
Tradition, it's showing up for your people, and it's being there for one another.
Tradition is the foundation of the fire service. From anything from our symbolic white chief hats to, lapels and uniform. And sometimes it might seem like, oh, okay, this is just old habits, die hard. But in reality, it's an indication of respect that's cross-generational.
The traditions of keeping your trucks clean, keeping your equipment clean, knowing your equipment. When I came in, we had to learn the trucks and the compartments, if you will, blindfolded, because you had to know what was in that compartment at 2 a.m. in the morning in the dark.
When you're a rookie and you come out of recruit academy, your first job is cleaning the kitchen. That sticks by no matter what. You clean the kitchen, and then you get promoted to the bathrooms. And you just continue on after that. But that tradition, instills that independence and working hard to build up, because we can depend on you to work hard and do the little things of taking out the trash and cleaning the bathrooms, and we can depend on you on the fire scene, and that's what matters most.
We need to respect our tradition, people that blaze the trails ahead of us. However, we can't be afraid to change.
Traditions is a good thing, and it also can be a bad thing. We have to be careful not being too stuck in our traditions, but upgrading our traditions to come to the new century of what we're in.
We do have some things that's meaningless for our times now. Back in the day, we used to have like wooden wheels on carriages. They used to water them down. We don't have to do that anymore. So some tradition, is good to remember, but not good to apply.
Tradition to the fire service itself is a big thing. I think it's a big thing, but I think that it's something that needs to get out of the way. Get out of the way, because if they kept up with tradition, I wouldn't have been there. I wouldn't have been able to retire. So yeah, tradition is something that sometimes it's good, and it's good for family reunions.
One of my favorite old sayings, the American Fire Service was 200 years of tradition unimpeded by progress, which means we like to hold on to the old things. But it has a very important place, though. It really does.
Like I said, never had an interview. Just come straight to work, went straight to work into learning to be a dispatcher, and shortly thereafter, I went into learning to be a firefighter.
So the first thing I had to do was went to the old Belberry's, which was down at the library, went down to the basement, and that's where you went and got your uniforms. They gave you uniforms, they gave you patches. You had to get them sewed on. You had to go buy your shoes and stuff, and then you come back and they gave you your bed linens, gave you one set of bed linen. That was my first day. And then they said, well, For your fireground experience training, we're going to take you out and you're going to catch a hydrant in the backyard of the old fire headquarters at 4th and Dock. So I did that several times. And then he said, now we're going to put the arrow ladder up and you're going to climb to the top of that. So I did that a few times. And then they said, from now on, your job is to follow the man in the white shirt that's on your truck, do whatever he tells you to do, when he tells you to do it. Don't take anything off the truck without letting the engineer or driver know. So, and that was pretty much my first week, I guess, of training. And at that time, they didn't have any study manuals or anything. So you had to find an engineer, somebody that had good notes, get their notebook, and then make your notes out of their notebook. If their notes were wrong, then yours were going to be wrong. So, it's kind of a tricky situation to be in. So that was my academy.
If I hadn't gone through the training that the department supplied for us, I probably wouldn't have been able to be a firefighter. I came in with no experience, no real fire understanding. So having that academy is super important, because if they had said, hey, get on a truck and go fight a fire or go extricate someone from a car, I'd be like, how? Or is this safe? So they teach you about fireground operations, safety procedures, and they teach you how to actually be an asset to the department. Because I think that if you just threw me on a fire truck, I would have been a liability for sure.
Seconds count. Everything matters when we're forcing this door.
The academy kind of sets the tone for the rest of your career. It definitely will kind of set standards, show good techniques, good habits.
Normal day, we start our morning with PT. That may be running one morning, doing a circuit. Then we proceed to a classroom, split into subjects. Normally in the beginning, we're going to deal with PowerPoints, learning in the classroom, and then we proceed to going outside, actually putting hands on and learning the task at hand.
Our academies have basically evolved each year to get better and better. We have multiple people that come from different departments and go through our academy, and on the reviews, they're always telling us our academy blows the academy that they've been out of the water.
Get in there!
On an annual basis, ISO category training. So that's going to be company training, which means together with your crew, hazardous materials training, driver training, officer training, and then facility hours, which is taking place up at the public safety North Campus at Cape Fear Community College. But you're looking at on an annual basis, our department is going to be outputting anywhere between probably 60 and 70,000 hours of training every single year specific in those categories. That's not even including the medical side of things that our folks put effort into.
It's 100 or less that have accredited and an ISO 1. But there's about 300 departments that are accredited, and that's not just in the U.S., but that's worldwide. We're an accredited department and an ISO 1. As a department, you just can't do much better. The whole idea is continual improvement, so we have to do better. We have to figure out a way to do better. We've been at this 125 years, so we're starting to get the hang of it.
Yeah, EMS has already had the blanket on it.
The technology of firefighting changes, so you need to have folks who are trained in order to use that technology.
I think we're using technology better for the fire service. I think there's still a long way to go with that. But I see things just from our radios, from the radios that we use. Now each firefighter in the department has their own radio to use when they're on scene. When I started a long time ago, we had one radio for the truck.
Now we have a tablet on every single rig, which really helps if you're a driver and I can look in the GPS really fast. Okay, I need to go this way as opposed to this way, and it'll get me there faster. Before, you were depending on your captain to help you, or if you just had that background information from just like territory studies from your past that you could kind of remember. But this is allowing us to get to places faster.
One of the biggest changes, when I came into the department, we had one truck at headquarters that had an air pack on it. None of the rest of the trucks throughout the city did not. And so we were really what you call smoke eaters back in that day and time. And even when we got air packs on trucks, men were hesitant to to use them because they felt like it wasn't showing that you could go in and stay in and eat the smoke, as they were saying.
When we first started, we didn't wear air packs. Tell you how old I am. And now we do, and it's only because it's much safer to do it that way. Traditionally the firefighters wore long beards and soaked them in water, stuck them in their mouth so they could breathe.
They had 2 air packs on the truck. You didn't wear them. You had a structure fire. You didn't put the air pack on. That was for some kind of a chemical spill or something, I guess. So it was crawl on the floor and breathe in whatever was on the floor. So that was a big change.
The mandating of policies for wearing our gear, that especially, we learned so much more about cancer, which is a whole other thing. We didn't talk about election on that. But we've learned so much of how it really affects us. When I was coming up, we knew it was bad. We knew all that stuff we were breathing was bad. It wasn't good. Wear your air pack. But like an old friend of mine used to say, we didn't know what we didn't know.
They always said if you had an air pack, you put it on, you were a sissy. You'd be mean and tough. Have all the black stuff coming out of your mouth, nose. When you come here, you put it on regardless whether you liked it or not.
That's probably one of the reasons I got COPD, because I used it as little as I could. I didn't let it stop me from going in. I just wasn't looking out for myself.
Into the mid-1800s, into the late 1800s, as we started to adapt and bring in steam engines versus large and heavy leather hose and stuff like that as far as fire protection goes. Of course, that evolved into the early 1900s, where about 1917 we had our last horse that actually responded to a call, and everything switched over to motorized at that point.
I can remember the first fire that I drove to. It was in Hillcrest, and there's a bump down at the 5th and Worcester. And I always knew when you're coming up on that bump, you had to hold on. There was 3 people on the tailboat, and the lieutenant and the driver. So now they're all in covered wagons and everything. No being rained on, no worrying about falling off the tailboat.
The apparatus that we buy now, just a quick, short time when I first started in the fire service, there was very little electronics and technology on these fire trucks, and everything was manually with levers and setting things of that sort. Now you basically press a button and everything is electronic and get you squared away.
I think that technology would evolve. It has in some ways, but the basics are still the basics. There's by far less fires these days because technology's better, building codes are better, construction. But unfortunately, the human element you're still going to deal with. People have to make decisions, and there's consequences with decisions. People make bad decisions. They smoke in the bed. They drink too much. They leave a pot of food on the stove and go pass out and go to sleep. And so you still have those things you deal with.
In terms of going further with technology, I think we're in the right spot. It's just taking a lot longer than anticipated to kind of keep up because it's ever changing. It's always.
I think really the biggest thing that we can work on as a department is just really learning to continue learning to understand each other and know that we are growing as a department. We're a diverse department, and with that, continually understanding different backgrounds and knowing where we can grow and how we can succeed together.
There's a long way to go still in the fire service to open it up to be more accommodating to people joining the fire service. That's a hot topic of conversation. It always is and always will be, because this is a tough job. This is a hard job.
Continue to focus on our young people. Continue to focus on our recruit academies, expand, understand that for us to be successful in the future, we have to put our focus on things, the intangibles. Cancer initiative, the mental health, being accepting of everybody in the fire service. We really have to understand the dynamics of culture and society and foster our young people and create a sense of belonging like I felt when I first came in.
I think our leadership needs to hear what more firefighters have to say. They are the meat and potatoes of this department. If we need to continue and progress, I think that hearing what our firefighters have to say is going to be very beneficial for the department.
Figured out how we could empower people at all levels of the organization to lead. And I think as long as, as the staff and I continue to find ways to empower people to do that, we're going to continue to get great ideas. We're going to continue to hire even better people. The only thing that can come from that is a better future.
I'm fairly young in the department, but I still see even the newer people coming in, bringing that fresh look at things, bringing that mentality of, okay, how can I make this little part of the department better? And if we maintain that, there's only upwards to go.
The overall important piece of the history of the Wilmington Fire Department is the fact that, for years we were the first in a lot of things. And as we continue to go forward in our history, for Wilmington to continue that, to be first in a lot of things. So the other fire departments are asking us how we're doing things, why we're doing it, the way we're doing it. There are lots of things that are coming up in the forefront from, we're already on the drone programs and different things with cab technology and turnout gear, the new PFAS requirements.
As a fire department today, we're going out and really focusing on fire prevention to a level of almost being able to utilize data points and analyze where maybe the next stroke may be within the city, or where the highest potential for a cooking fire may take place, or focusing on, youth fire setters. And so that we can be more involved and engaged with the community to not necessarily determine exactly where the next fire may take place, but focus on geographical areas within our city in which we can ultimately make our city a much safer place.
I think the advancements in the fire service are pretty much only limited by our imagination.
Unquestionably, what makes the WFD special is the people that make up the department.
To me, firefighters are always there to save lives. Firefighters today is to answer that call when the people don't know who to call. We are a catch-all. When someone picks up the phone and they call 911 and dispatch doesn't know who to dispatch, they dispatch the fire department. And we got to be able to provide that service for them, whatever it is.
Firefighting don't always take individuals. And those individuals have got to be dedicated. And they're going to have that desire to be of service to the community.
I come to work every day and I know that the guys that I'm with, they value this place. They value me as a person. I value them as a person, and then it makes us a better crew. And it makes us a better team for serving our community.
Back in the day, it was firefighting. Now we're in EMT, we're first responders, we're doing firefighting, we're doing technical rescue, we're doing hazmat, we're doing everything now.
I think it's important for people to view being a firefighter as an opportunity. You think of firefighters being like these big, burly men with salt and pepper facial hair, and nowadays that view is changing. It's important for us to have all different types of people on the line, and it's important for you to view it as an opportunity. If you want to help people, this is a great way